Well, good morning. Man, it's so good to be with you guys today. It's awesome. Love looking out at you guys. You guys are amazing. Thank you for being here today. Hey, not only am I excited to see you guys today, I'm excited to share today. I wanted to start with a journey that Robin and I went through. Man, we were thrilled. Robin and I were thrilled. I still remember the time, the excitement level we had when we finally got the house that we wanted. It was so cool. It was so cool. We were so excited. It was the biggest thing that we had ever lived in before. Still to this day, the biggest thing that we ever lived in. Guys, it was decked out everything. It had like authentic hardwood flooring. It had crown molding throughout. We were so excited about this place. We were like, thank you, God. This is so awesome. We were so excited. It even had like a quarter acre of land. It was incredible. Now, mind you, this was on the East Coast, a little bit more affordable. In Cali, we can't even afford a quarter inch of land. Can I get an amen from that one, right? It was so exciting to finally get this home until it wasn't. When we were making our decision, it was possible. The numbers worked. The money worked. We could afford it. If Robin would just get a couple more kids, we got the more kids. For her daycare. That sounded kind of bad, right? We're going to take kids into our home. Thank you. Wife's protection of the pastor. Woo! Phew! Child care. Child care. Anyway, we did not take into account how it would affect Robin to have so many more kids in her home, child care, and the unrest that she would live because of that. But now we were stuck. Was there anything wrong with getting this home? Absolutely not. But we didn't take into account just how badly it would affect her to have to try to maintain the home. I want you to think about that as we're starting this message. Now, a not so serious one, Robin and I have a family member that they are so extroverted. They love their family. They love being with their family. So with good heart, with good intention, they often, sometimes when they are with family, they just want to seize the moment. And so they want to cram so many things into a day. It's like, let's go do this. Let's go do that. It's like you haven't even done anything yet. And you're already hyperventilating, thinking about your day, right? And it's with such good intention. But it's so overwhelming. Is there anything wrong with doing many good things in a day? No. But does it end up being worth it if you can't even enjoy what you're doing? Is there anything wrong with having a nice home, whether you buy it or rent it? No. But what good is it if you've lost your peace because it's so overwhelming to maintain the payment or how big it is and cleaning it or whatever the case may be, right? And I bring that up today because I believe sometimes, maybe even many times, we base our decisions based off of what's possible. Well, I have the time, I have the finances, I currently have the energy and focus. And don't hear this wrong, we should be doing those things, right? Those are things that we should consider. But here's another thing we need to consider as we're making decisions for our lives. Will choosing this road keep me at peace, or will choosing this road take away my peace and make my life much more chaotic and unmanageable? And as you're thinking through that for your own lives, we're continuing a series today about the names of God. We're actually going to take a look at the name that we talked about last week. Again, that name is Jehovah Shalom. The Lord is peace. Now, here's my thought process. Follow with me. If God is peace, if that's something who he is, then certainly he has the wisdom that can help us keep and maintain a steady life. Do you agree with that? If he is peace, he can give us wisdom for our lives. And while we won't be perfect, there will be times where we'll have to live through trial and error, right? That mistake that Robin and I made, it was a 4-year burden. 4-year burden. And so there will be times where we're going to have to live in trial and error because we won't be perfect in it. He can help us make decisions that allow us to keep more of the peace that he plentifully gives to us. So with that in mind, listen into God's wisdom to see what this feels and looks like. Okay, we're going to start out on Proverbs 4. It says this. It says, above all else, this is so important. So above all else, guard your heart, for everything you do flows from it. You know, there's another part of the Bible that tells us that God's peace can guard our hearts and minds. And that is so very, very true. And I hope that you'll experience that today, and you've experienced many times in your life. But this verse reveals that we play a part in guarding our hearts as well. Notice it doesn't say, above all else, God will guard your heart. It says, above all else, hey, you, because this is so important, guard your heart. And I think part of the reason God allowed this real estate to be taken up in the Bible is because he knew that there'd be so many things that try to attack our hearts, our minds, and our souls. Remember, we talked about some of them last week. Like, man, some of us we get really burdened when we think of the future, especially when it's unknown and what's going to happen next in my life and what's going to happen next year. For some of us, it's conflict in relationship. For some, it's money issues, political concerns. For some of us, we just can't let go of our past, and it's become so much a part of who we are. It's like shame is a part of our identity now. For some of us, it could be health issues. I could keep going and going and going. There's so many things that have the potential to attack our hearts and steal and rob the peace within us. So it's up to us to guard it. And the way we guard it, we talked about it last week, just laying a foundation for today. We guard our hearts by making the decision to trust God when things or issues are trying to attack our souls, the future, the health, the conflict, whatever it is. We decide, wait a minute, God, I can trust you with this. This doesn't catch you off guard. You're not up in heaven and saying, crap, that one got past me. Your life is so unique. I didn't know that was coming, okay? It's like, okay, God, you have my future. You have my relationships. So I'm going to play my part in guarding my heart. My part in guarding my heart is to trust you. And then his peace comes in and trusts and helps us guard our hearts by saying, I've got this. I'll do this for you. I'm bigger. I'm stronger. I'm your amazing God. You see what's happening? We're guarding our hearts by deciding to trust God. And then when we trust God, his peace comes in and guards our hearts and minds. We both play a part. Because like we talked about last week, pretend you walked into this room today and there was no lights on. We're tripping and fumbling over ourselves. All we'd have to do is go to a light switch. All the electricity is available to us to where we don't need to go through fumbling and stumbling. We just need to turn on the light. And it's the same with God's peace. It is available to you today. I want you to believe in that. God's peace is available for you today. And it takes turning on the switch. God, I trust you. And then letting his peace take over to guard your hearts and minds. But let's look at another verse in the Bible that gives us wisdom and shows us what it looks like on how to keep peace in our lives. It says this in Ecclesiastes 4, better one handful with tranquility than two handfuls with toil and chasing after the wind. I'll say that again, then I'll explain it. Better is one handful with peace than two handfuls with toil and unrest and chasing after the wind. Like I mentioned above, sometimes we make decisions based on what's possible. And oh man, do we live in the day of possibilities. I really love the time that we live in. I hope that you do too. There are things available. There are possibilities that we have today that think about how long we've been around as a mankind. And there are so many possibilities today that we have that's only been available for like the past 50 years. With some things, it's even the last 20 years. So, man, we have so many different possibilities and opportunities. And they're not wrong. But I want to show you how this can still get overwhelming and how we can get overextended. And then all of a sudden, we're living in this low level of overwhelm or this high level of overwhelm. Let me give some examples. Again, I will repeat, they're not wrong. Man, I love both of these hobbies. They're good. There's nothing wrong with them. Man, I never considered how much that took me away from my family to have a second hobby. Or I never considered how overextended I am in my finances to finance a second hobby. Or you could go on with that example. Maybe it's better. There's nothing wrong with either hobby, but maybe it's better if I just hold on to one, because better is one with peace than two with unrest. What about this one? Especially in our culture today. Man, whoever created overtime was amazing. It's like if you work a 41st hour, unless you're salaried, then we're screwed, right? Crap! Crap! Now you can go like 100 hours a week, same pay. I'm just having fun, but you work your 41st hour. Time and a half, maybe even double. It's amazing. Sign me up for overtime. Or how about our world of technology where we can just, today, if you wanted to, you can go out and start Ubering people around or doing Lyft or there's this thing called, it's called TaskRabbit, I think. You can actually get paid to do other people's tasks. It's awesome. You could stand in line for someone. Like, hey, I need someone to stand in line for an hour because I'm busy. And I've heard of that before. It's nuts. The possibilities that we have today. So whether it's overtime or side jobs, again, nothing wrong with them. Man, it feels so good to be able to do this and have these opportunities. Wow, I never knew how much consistently doing this would drive me into the ground. I'm never getting a day off. I just feel so overwhelmed. I mean, look what it says in Proverbs 23. It says, do not wear yourself out to get rich. Listen to that. Do not wear yourself out to get rich. Is God mad at money? Everybody shake your head. No, not at all. He's not mad at money, not at all. Is it wrong to have wealth? Nope. Not at all. He just doesn't want you to wear yourself out to get it. Because he knows your life is more important than another dollar. There will always, I get it. I've had side jobs myself. The allure, you might not picture this. I was a taxi cab driver for a little while. Well, you're like, whoa, I was a taxi cab driver. I know the allure of, there's always another ride. And what if this one's $50 instead of $10? There's always more we can chase. And there's nothing wrong with having more at times, but let's not wear ourselves out, because you see, these situations, while not innately wrong, can become the thief of our peace. You see that? It can become the thief of our peace. How about this one? Oh my gosh. the new 2024 Tesla. Oh man, and I better get it now because California is going to electric cars in like 8 years. Can I do this? My car payment now is $200. This will only be $9.95 a month. I'm gonna go look so cool going down Sunset Cliffs Boulevard. I even think Elon Musk will be proud of me. Oh, this is gonna be good. I can do it. I see that I actually have $9.95 a month. And then we don't realize that while we had the money, it accidentally overextended us in other areas. How about this one? Should my kid play 1 sports or 9? There's no in between. Sorry. And it's like, sure, we have Monday, we have Tuesday, we have Wednesday, we have Thursday, we have Friday. We have from 3 to 5 and 5 to 8 and 8 to 10 available. Sure. Heck, I'm not going to Uber around. I'll just become my teen's Uber driver, right? Hey, there's nothing wrong with a couple sports, but am I or my teenager, are we starting to be, is our family life starting to become unmanageable? How about this one? I hope you don't hear it wrong. How about grades? How about your education? Like I've got to get an A, I've got to get an A, I've got to get an A. And I don't want you to hear it wrong. Do your best for God. But if getting A's is causing you unrest, what would it possibly look like to have B's with peace? Or even C pluses? Maybe with a D. Okay, up your game a little bit, people. Seriously though. Is it worth getting all A's if you're destroying yourself for 4 years to get them? Or how about this one? The promotion is coming, or you're like, awesome, there's this new job and it's like $5 more per hour? Now I can get the Tesla? And we don't take into consideration that the responsibilities are more like $50 an hour. What's the point of the extra $5 an hour if we're in so much turmoil now because our responsibilities are so much more heavy and unmanageable? Now again, nothing wrong with having more. But I love that God gave us this wisdom. He's asking us to make decisions based on keeping our peace. But oftentimes, hear this, oftentimes we value our goals and our achievements more. I think on accident. But when this happens, when we make decisions based off solely the possibilities, our goals or what we want or what we want to achieve, and we don't stop to think long enough or ask for God's wisdom, we just don't see how it affects our lives beyond that initial moment. But let's think about it for a moment. What good is it if you achieve your goals and you get more of this and you get bigger of that, if you lose yourself in the process? I'll go back to our story. What good was it to have this better, more amazing home when we lost ourselves in the home? It wasn't good. It wasn't good. It didn't help us at all. See, we may live in a time of possibilities, but it doesn't mean we don't have limits. Heck, I'll go one above. We serve a God of possibilities, but that doesn't mean we're limitless. We're still humans that live on this earth. And see, if we're not careful, our lives can accidentally be overloaded with good things. Like they're little good things. Who doesn't want more good in their lives? I think we all want more good in our lives. But what can end up happening in the land and time of possibilities is we get overloaded with good things. And we need to understand that peace means wholeness. And when we're pulled in too many different directions, even if they're good things, that's why we can start to feel our spirits tear apart from us and we're in unrest. And when we don't create boundaries by making decisions with our peace in mind, better is one hand with peace. The very things that we thought would bring a better life, the good life, the high life, however you want to say it, are the very things that bring unrest. I have more, but why do I feel so much turmoil in my life? That's why it's so important that we evaluate what we do based on keeping the peace that he gives us. And it will take trust, because a lot of these things are good things. I hope Robin and I never go through this again. But when we extended in our home purchase, again, I hope we never go through such a long season again. But I'm so glad we went through it. Because while we're not perfect still today, when we're analyzing a home, whether it means buying it or renting it, we talk about it. Hey, what does this look like? What can we afford when it comes to our peace, too? So we're about 2/3 of the way done through the message. I want to stop right now. I just want to give you like 30 seconds to go before God and ask him, God, is there anything in my life that, and for some of you, you're going to know almost right away, oh yeah, that's a second handful that's causing me unrest. But maybe for some of you, just like you have no idea, you feel this low-key overwhelm. Take 30 seconds to ask God, what's going on in my heart and mind? So why don't you do that right now? I'll stay silent for a little bit. Engage with God right now. You know, maybe you identified something in your life that's causing you turmoil. So the next question becomes, are you stuck with it, or is there something you can do about it? Thankfully, with God's help, there's always, did you hear that? Don't use always and never often. With God's help, there's always something you can do about it. Listen in to John 15 as Jesus, this is Jesus' words. He's describing himself as well as God. He says, I am the true vine, and my Father is the gardener. He cuts off every branch in me that bears no fruit, while every branch that does bear fruit, he prunes so that it will even be more fruitful. Jesus mentions that he's the vine, and later in the chapter, he mentions that we're his branches. And you can put up the slide about the cutting the tree, Adam. Because he cares, there are times where he prunes us so we can even be more fruitful. And this isn't God being mean. This is God it's not that he doesn't care for you. What happens when a farmer prunes? He's not being a mean farmer to the tree. He's cutting away at it. He's pruning it so that it becomes more fruitful. A farmer prunes at branches so that it will produce even more fruit. And this is God's desire for us. Look what it says in John 15:8. This is to my Father's glory. This is his goal. This is his desire, that you bear much fruit, showing yourselves to be my disciples. Now, I think when we think of the word fruitful, we may think of the word successful. And I think that could be a way to look at it. You can show the next slide of the orange tree, Adam. If a tree becomes more fruitful, It's definitely a success for the farmer, right? If this tree only produced one orange, that's not as successful as if the tree blossomed and produces many oranges, right? Because now the farmer has more oranges to sell, okay? So I don't think success is necessarily a wrong way to look at fruitful. That said, though, go with me here. Let's go to someplace deeper. What if God's definition of success isn't, do they have 2 handfuls or even more than 2 handfuls? What if it is, are they peaceful or joyful no matter how many handfuls they have? What if a calm and happy spirit equals success to God? Now, I want to reiterate, nothing is wrong with more. But if it causes too much overwhelm, is it worth it? Can I tell you from our home experience, it's not. It's not worth it. Because God doesn't want you living in a constant state of overwhelm. In fact, while painful at times, what if some of the no's we heard from God or felt from God are simply God knowing 2 hands is going to be too much for you in this situation. And it's going to rob you of the peacefulness I have given you. I remember a few years ago, I know Robin looks like it, but I don't look like I'm in my 40s. I'm teasing. It's actually reversed. Look at the gray. Did you see any gray on her? It's a joke just to make sure you are still awake in your seats. I hear this, It's okay. Reverse it. I know I look like I'm in my 40s. She looks like she's like 27, right? Okay, we can move on. But a couple years ago, because we're in our 40s, we decided to start thinking about, hey, what can we do to start getting ahead? Because we probably only have about half of our career left in front of us. So what can we start doing to get ahead? And we started researching, thinking about things, and we came up with a really good plan. There was nothing wrong with the plan that we had in place to get ahead. And so we started trying to open doors, trying to step into doors, and every one of them was a no. We'd like get up to the door's already shut. We'd get halfway to the door, it's shut. We'd go up to the door, it's shut in our face, almost broke our spiritual nose, all that kind of stuff. We tried to pry the door, come on, please. God, this is a good plan. Why are you doing this? It's not, and I'm telling you, there's nothing wrong. It's not like, Robin, here's our retirement plan. Let's go rob a bank in OB. Are you with me? Let's go do this, right? It was a good plan. And God just lovingly and gently kept shutting doors and telling us no. Again, this was a few years ago. Do you guys realize in these past couple weeks, as God has been showing me his peace, that he showed me that within my personality, if he would have said yes to these things, it would have robbed me of peace the past few years. And I was like, because what if God's definition of success isn't more? It's, are they living peacefully with what they already have? I'm gonna be honest with you. This being not that I haven't been honest in the ministry, to be more transparent with you. It's like childcare in the beginning, right? Use your words wisely, PK. I'm going to be transparent with you. There have been times, too many times in my life, that when I have felt no from God, I blame him. I don't know if you've ever gone through that, but I have. Isn't it interesting that God loves us so much that he's willing to have his reputation in your eyes take a hit just to protect you? And he's like, hey, I know you're not going to understand right now, but at some point you will, and you'll probably stop blaming me. You'll actually probably thank me, and you'll probably end up trusting me more. Guys, he's the God of peace, and he has it for us. God's goal of pruning us is good. It's to help us be more fruitful, to have, among other things, more love, joy, peace, and kindness. These are the fruits. These are the more God desires for us. And while he prunes, we can use his insight and make choices to prune ourselves so our heart is guarded. Okay, God tells me one hand with peace is better than two hands with turmoil. So I want you to think back to the thing that you identified as causing your turmoil. Remember, I gave you just a few minutes ago, I gave you a moment to think through it. Maybe this is between you and God. Maybe God wants you to let it go. Even if it's good. Maybe God wants you to let go of what's in your second hand. Now, as we're ending and as Cameron comes back out to lead us, just so I'm careful to not miscommunicate, I do believe there are seasons when God asks us to reach for more and to take hold of his abundance that he's holding for us. And if you're in a season of growing into more of what God has, or reaching for new goals, or asking God to do great new things, that these big plans will come to pass, that's awesome. Even so, we also walk through portions of our faith journey where God is pruning things back in order to give us more peace. Because that's how he works, because that's who he is. He's Jehovah Shalom. And if that's who he is, then he can give us the wisdom to help us keep our peace. And he can, and he wants to help. The question is, will you take the help so you can guard your heart? Maybe for some, you want to guard your heart. Yes, PK, it's been too chaotic. It's been too unmanageable. The unrest is so real in my life right now. You want to guard your heart. You want his insight, but you don't know what to do. Been there too. And there's this grace promise in the Bible that God gives us when we're at this place. In James 1, it says, if any of you lacks wisdom, you should ask God, who gives it kind of stingily and gets annoyed if you ask him more than 3 times. No. If any of you lacks wisdom, ask him, and he's going to give it generously. And this is so cool. He gives it to you without finding fault. We may blame him at times. He doesn't play the blame game. He wants to give it to you without finding fault. So here's what I want you to do as we're starting to close our service for a couple minutes. I want you to ask this question to God. It's up on the screen. God, is there anything in my second hand I should let go of? God, it might be tough because it could be 2 good things. God, is there anything in my second hand that I should let go of? And I encourage you right now, if he reveals something, ask him for the wisdom on how you can do that. Go to someone in your life. Ask them, I really feel God has shared this with me. How have you let good things go in your life before? How have you went from unmanageable to peace? But I want you to, while Cameron is strumming the music for a little bit, in the quietness of this moment, Cameron, maybe like a minute or 2, would you just take a minute or 2 to, God, is there anything in my life, in my second hand, that I need to let go of? And if he reveals something, ask for his wisdom, because he will generously give it to you without finding fault, because he loves you that much.